CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their heart. Today, my guest is Nir Bashan, and we titled his podcast, Creativity Decoded. Thank you for coming on today, Nir.
Thanks, CJ. This is going to be fun.
I'm excited. Being an author, blogger, and podcaster, creativity is pretty much at my core. What do you do when there's somebody who it's not at their core? How do you decode that?
Definitely. So I get this a lot. I'm an author too, and I do workshops and keynotes. I do a fair amount of consulting with companies across the country, and I get it a lot where people say, "Nir, creativity sounds wonderful, but that's just not me. I don't play an instrument, and I don't." Draw paintings and sculpture and stuff like that. I admire it, but it's not me. I'm a numbers person or something like that. And CJ, I believe that we were all born creative, and somewhere along the journey of life, whether it's school or work or society, we slowly become less and less creative as we get older. And we wonder why we can't achieve our goals, why we can't get to that next level, especially at work, why we are stuck in a certain pattern. And so I've made a life of teaching people that, yes, they can be creative, and teaching people how to break through that barrier that's holding them back at work.
Well, I know a lot of times lately in schools in the US, they're starting to cut things like art and music, and that pains me greatly. There is an art form to certain sports, but cutting out completely art and music, you're cutting out a really strong creativity point that needs to be continued to hold on, because some people learn by music. I'm one of those. When I learned Spanish, I learned it as, a musical flow. And I was able to pick it up a whole lot easier because I grew up with music. I can play the keyboard, the violin, the guitar. And so for me, everything has a flow to it. And if I didn't have that, I don't necessarily know I would have picked it up quite so quickly.
Yeah. And the arts are a really good introduction to creativity of the whole. So what I think is that art and music and that sort of thing, it's just one sliver. So if you and your listeners can imagine a pie chart, kind of in the mind's eye, think of art or music as being 1% of the capacity of creativity. And most of us are introduced to creativity through the arts. And for me, it's a shame. It's like, it never fully gets where it needs to go. It's like, learning how to bake one type of cake, or, doing, one type of activity and feeling like how to become a master pastry chef. It's a shame. And for me, I feel that we're losing so much value for society, for humanity in general, by not developing that portion of the mind, right? The mind is split into the analytical and the creative. And, there is some crossover there, but for the most part, we're very, very good at developing, spreadsheet logic and quantification and numbers and that sort of thing. And we're not so good at developing a side of the mind that just kind of wastes away. And we have a situation that is really kind of bad. There's some amazing creativity and innovation and advancement that is not taking place because we're really pushing creativity down and amping up the numbers and the profit and loss sheet and the quarterly reports and stuff like that. We're just losing our way a bit.
Exactly. If you go to a third world country like South Africa or Mexico or Jamaica or any of that stuff down there, the creativity is amazing, what people make with their hands. And we travel a lot. My husband and I call him Super Hubby. We travel a lot, and we see this stuff. People, for example, when we went to South Africa, a gentleman took like 5 different types of wood, and he made them into shapes. And what he did then is he burned the detailed designs into it and made the big 5 from South Africa.
Oh, wow.
And we actually watched him do it, and that's what we have in our house. And just to see that creativity not here, it was so mind-blowing when we got there, that when we came back, I realized, that's not here. There's a disconnect. Those numbers and stuff that you mentioned give me brain pain and hives. My husband is a math brain. I am more the creativity brain. And so, get us together, we're great. But if it's a math question, it goes straight to him.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not my ball game. But I've held on to that creativity, and not everybody does. And so it really pains me when I see, for example, Hollywood continue to remake the same movie over and over again without moving on to others, when there are literally millions of books published every single year that they could take off otherwise.
Yeah, the Hollywood model is really interesting. And I used to work in Hollywood, so I could tell you firsthand that, the studios that are left and Netflix and Amazon are really in the hedge your bet type business, right? They want to, re-release a movie that had done well 20 years ago because it already had the brand and a name and a title, and they feel like, oh, we're hedging our bets. But
They end up hurting the movie because it's not anywhere near as good as the first one.
when was the last time you were at the movies?
Well, before COVID.
Right.
For the Avengers, when the Avengers
Right.
came out.
Right. And then, it probably has been months, if not years, for your listeners as well. It's just one of those things where, they've managed to do to their business, which is supposed to be a creative business, an analytical treatment. And it ended up sort of ruining the experience of going to see movies. It's all kind of the same thing now, and people are smart. They know that they don't want to go pay an exorbitant fee, to go see a movie when it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, well, and then you go to Netflix, and Netflix has these Netflix originals, which are stuff you've never seen before.
Right. So there's some interesting things going on with those platforms, and they are a little bit different than kind of the old school Hollywood model, which is to replicate things. So there's a lot of ingenuity and creativity happening in different segments of Hollywood, but the box office segment is probably been lost for forever.
Mm-hmm. So how do you unlock that in people who have kind of locked that half of their brain out?
I have a few techniques. I wrote a book about 92 tools and tricks of how to unleash creativity. I'm an avid reader. I read, probably a book a week. And I noticed about 6 or 7 years ago that there's no books on the how of creativity. Everything's about the why. And I read those books and I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, yeah, and then like it kind of like a cliffhanger at the end. You're just like, now what?
What do I do with it?
Yeah. Okay. I believe in it. Now what? And so, so I wrote a book with I wrote a book with tips and tricks. There we go. On how to become more creative. And I think that's really, really important today. I don't think it's good enough to just say why, but I think it's really important to give people actionable items.
Well, not to take away from your book, can you give us just like one or two?
Of course, yeah. So one thing that I really like is writing stuff down and circling it. There's an amazing creative potential that can happen when you grab a pen and a piece of paper and you write stuff down. We did some research and it turns out that different parts of the mind get activated when you actually write stuff down rather than just think about it. And that is a really great tool. I worked in Hollywood. Like I said earlier, I worked in music. I worked with celebrities like, Rod Stewart and Woody Harrelson. And I noticed that they have a pen and a pad with them, mostly all the time. And they write stuff down and they come up with ideas and they have a way to sort of instantly create creativity. And for me, that was really fascinating. And I've taken a lot of their foundations and put it into the book, Hollywood and music. I've taken a lot of businesses that I've worked at, $250 million businesses that I've run, and taken the tools and the different techniques that have worked and put it into the book. So there is a way to awaken creativity. You just have to want to do it. Writing stuff down really helps.
Yeah, being an author, I get that. There's two types of authors. There's what we call planners or pantsers. Planners are the ones that, got it all out, spreadsheets and author terms with like character arcs and plots and, they're following it. And then there's us pantsers, and I include myself in that one, where I literally sit down pray, and type. You know, for me, it's like a movie going on in my head. I'm ADD and OCD. So
Right.
got all sorts of alphabets going on in there. So, you know, I write it as if I'm watching it in a movie. If it's a boring scene, I rip it out and put something else in its place. And, you know, to me, the creativity of not knowing how the book is going to end is what excites me about a story.
Okay.
So when I can sit down and not know the ending of it when I go to start writing, it's just, it's fun for me because I never go against the character. The characters write the story, and they take off. Somebody who I intended to only be in for a little bit ended up going, nope, I want to be in here, and they take over the story sometimes and end up being a little bit more longer than I thought.
Yeah,
So
definitely. What do you do if you can't come up with an ending that's right for the characters?
they just do it on their own. Honestly, I know it sounds weird, but it somehow works its way out. Sometimes I end up doing a series, and I have 3 series right now: the Grace Restored series, Holy Flame trilogy, and Divine Legacy series. And then I have a standalone, Strength from Within. Strength from Within, the Grace Restored series, and the Holy Flame trilogy are actually all going on at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Some of the characters cross over storylines. The Divine Legacy is a 20-year jump where the kids take over.
Oh, wow.
So you get to see more of the characters. So the character stories really don't end. They just keep going. It's just kind of like real life. And they've passed it on to the next generation. So
Oh,
it
cool.
gets interesting.
Yeah.
I have a vague idea of where I want to go with this trilogy. I'm working on a Christian sci-fi right now. I have a vague idea on where I want it to go, but you know, however the characters take it.
Yeah. It's so different than nonfiction writing.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I know, and I get that. And then my nonfiction author friends are like, "Ooh, brain pain thinking about doing it that way," and I'm like, "Ooh, hives thinking on how you do it." You know,
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
creativity is different.
Yeah, and it, since we're all born creative, it's part of our DNA. It's who we are. And the way that you're creative is not the same way that I'm going to be creative, not the same way your listeners are going to be creative. It really is that beautiful sort of thing that differentiates us in the market between, one person and another. And it really is an incredible thing.
Well, here on the Journey is Road, we like to get the backstory.
Yeah.
To go along the journey with the person that we're talking to. So how in the world did this become a passion of yours?
So when I was 9 years old in the early 80s, I went door to door um, asking people if I can wash their car for $5 a pop.
I'm an early
And
entrepreneur.
yeah. I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life. I've run companies really successfully, and then I've run companies into the ground, like just totally,
Sometimes
in a,
it's a matter of throwing something against the wall and seeing what sticks. I
yeah,
get
it's been a wild ride, and I learned so much. And what I learned going door to door washing cars was that nobody was going to hand over their car keys of their, 1981 Pontiac 6000
yeah.
to like a kid. No way. That thing was, $3,800, brand spanking new. Do you remember the cards looked like, early Detroit cards looked like a fridge with wheels, you know? And so, but they were proud of it and they loved their cars. And so I ended up doing, a lot of other things because I had to get creative. There was nobody who was going to pay me to wash their car. So I said, okay, what about cleaning your trash bins? And so, we ended up cleaning a lot of trash bins and cleaning people's front porch and sweeping and doing all kinds of work. And that led to building trust. And the same customer, the same client who was like, 3 houses down on the left would let us then wash their car and then gain responsibility. And, I made a pretty good amount of money, surprising to my parents, by doing that, by going and having regular customers and all that. And I've taken all that I've learned.
You were motivated and you were persistent in what you were doing.
Yeah. I mean,
That's huge because sometimes people would get discouraged. Like, I have this idea and I'm going to go do it. And if it doesn't work, okay, well, then I'm just going to go walk away instead of trying to figure out, okay, that didn't work. How can I make it better and move forward?
Yeah, that is for me the essence of the type of creativity that I help people with. It's really an actionable type of creativity that gets you where you need to go when other things don't work. And I learned so much in doing that. And, then I worked in Hollywood and music forever. And then I've now run my own business with three, small but mighty employees. And, we do really good work. I hope. I know the book's doing well, and people are resonating to the message of, the power of creativity is available to all who seek it. It just takes the will to learn and the desire to do it. And so, yeah, that's kind of been my journey. It's been learning as a kid that you need to think a bit differently in order to get to the next level. And those things I carry with me today.
Awesome. Well, there's a myriad of resources on your website. Would you please share with us what they are?
There's what on my website? Sorry?
A myriad of resources.
Totally. Yeah, I got a community now where it's moderated, so there's no, 99-cent Viagra ads or anything like that. You can log in. It's actually Adam Grant and Wayne Baker's system called Givitas. It's like their platform about being free with information and helping people. So we have CEOs all the way down to students on there. You can log in and ask questions. The book is out. It's in stores at Barnes & Noble, at McGraw-Hill Business Release, and you can get an idea of, some of the tips and tricks in the book. There's videos on YouTube. We do workshops and webinars with different groups and help people uncover their own sort of creativity. And it's a very exciting thing.
Awesome. So how can people find you online?
Nirbashan.com, NIRBASHAN.com is my website. And I'm really easy to find. I think there's 3 Nir Bashans in the world, and I'm not the one uploading Call of Duty clips. To have the time to play a video game would be, amazing. Who has that time to, not only play, but upload the clips? It's crazy, CJ. It's like, who has that kind of...
Well, if that's his business though, then, and some gamers make a lot of money. So
I know, it's crazy.
His business.
I know, it's wild. Yeah. I don't know. I should send him an email. And then there's a Nir Bashan who's got a Pinterest that's like 10,000 photos of what she's going to do with her closet. Little did I ever know that my first name could be also a woman's first name, but like that. So that's not me. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm not the Call of Duty or the wardrobe specialist. And
Nir Bashan.
Right. And I'd love to hear from your listeners and see what their thoughts are.
We have about 3 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm really, really glad that you had me on the show. I think it's a wonderful program. I've listened to a bunch. I just like how honest you are. You're kind of like the no BS show, right?
I am real. I'm a Christian. A lot of people are like, well, then you should be acting like this. And I'm like, no, I'm a realistic Christian.
Yeah.
I'm real in this world. I understand.
Right.
I get it. And no, people say I'm either, they're like, well, you're blunt. No, I'm honest.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean necessarily that I'm a mean person. It just, I'm honest. I'd rather hurt you with the truth than make you feel good with a lie.
Yeah. I think the world needs a little bit more of that today. I think everybody's so careful and, I don't want to offend or whatever, but I think it's really good to have that. I listened to a show 2 or 3 ago that you did. I can't remember who was on, but you were like really matter of fact, straightforward. I found that refreshing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. To me, with all this political correctness going around, it drives me crazy. And when people are being too politically correct and they've got these masks on, the world is hurting more and more because nobody feels like they can be real. And so I like to just blow whatever walls they're down. And a lot of my guests understand that. When they come on, they're like, okay, what are we blowing down next?
Right.
So in your case, we're blowing down the creativity side.
Yeah.
Making sure that everyone's aware that, you do have one. You just might need to unlock it because it might have been locked up a while ago and buried underneath numbers. And
that's all it is. And really combining those two hemispheres into something in the middle is what we so badly need today. We're also, on one side or another,
Mhm.
and even the construct of our mind is like that. I work with people in finance, people in manufacturing, people in medicine, and the analytics are so strong. The pull of quantification and numbers are so strong that literally the structure of our mind starts to get skewed in one way or another. And I advocate for people to come to the center and live in balance of what this amazing thing God gave us. And, learning to operate it in harmony is such a gift to humanity. And the amazing things that we can uncover if we do that is, it's up to you and me and to your listeners to do. And we have that gift, and we have to get off of our butts and go out there and spread that gift to the world.
Exactly. And I was about to mention that my word for last year, which is going to end up being this year as well, is balance. Make sure your life is balanced. Yes, you can work your tail end off to get what you need to get and to get where you need to get, but make sure you're still relaxing and enjoying your family and friends, and you're not more connected with those online than you are with those in your house. If COVID showed us anything this year, it's that, hey, these people aren't too bad that we're living with. I love mine. Mine's my super hubby. We do
Right.
everything together. He's my best friend. And, not everybody has that. And sometimes, especially between the generations, the parent and child generations, that gap has gotten bigger with social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to reconnect and have that balance within family life and career life. Balance is huge, whether it's creativity and analytical. They all need to balance each other out because they, in essence, work together. Like I said,
Agreed.
sports is analytical, but there's an art form to it.
Agree 100%.
So, that's how it works. Well, thank you for coming on today, Nir. We really appreciated you sharing your openness about creativity and unlocking it, and looking forward to finding your book.
Thanks for having me, CJ.
For those who are interested, he is the third Nir Bashan, not the Call of Duty, not the female, but the third one. And you can find him at www.nirbashan.com, nirbashan.com. Thank you, Nir, for coming on. And thank you all for listening to The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.